Hey, what's going on out there, YouTube?
Hola, YouTube.
Como está? Nah, I'm just playing. This is SCL0320, Joe Johnson 030. We are back at it again for a brand new movie review. We are doing a review of the movie Exodus, Gods and Kings. This movie, it's got a lot of controversy, I guess, in the past, last week. A lot of different mixed reviews, and so I think me and Joe, we were really interested in watching it. But looking at the trailers, we realized different things, such as they had changed the story up a lot, and we didn't know how clear to the book that they would. And I'm talking about the biblical context of the Bible. I'm gonna read a synopsis real quick. The defiant leader Moses rises up against the Egyptian Pharaoh Ramses, setting 600,000 slaves on a monumental journey of escape through Egypt and its terrifying cycle of deadly plagues. That was from IGN. So the movie is starring Christian Bale as Moses, Joe Urgenton, that played in Great Gatsby. He played in The Warrior with Tom Hardy. Ben Kingsley, he plays Nun. You got Sigourney Weaver. You got John Turturro. You got Aaron Paul. You got so many different actors in this, and I didn't even expect some of the other ones that kind of came towards the end. But the thing about this movie was that I really liked it. It was an adaptation of the storytelling of Moses. They didn't take a long time. Well, the other thing is, you saw the really beginning of the movie. So I'll let you go into a little bit of that, what you thought of it, because I was gone. I missed a little bit of the beginning of the movie, but like I was talking about before, when I was looking at the trailer, I noticed a couple things. I noticed that Moses did not have a staff with him. He had a sword with him. I noticed that some of the ways that the combat and the certain interactions and how they were happening, I was like, wow, this is really Hollywooded up. But one of the big things about this movie that I looked at the trailers, which was interesting to me, is the production. They went some of everywhere. When you see them climbing and scaling mountains, and you see them in the water, when you see them, the fight sequences, all the set pieces, I want to say maybe 50% of the movie with certain scenes were CG, but it set a stage of stuff that came on top of it. It's not just everything is CG. Like, they have the cornerstone of like this brick area, and then they've got like maybe frogs and stuff jumping up. They spared no expense at all with the CG or the practical effects or the set piece in this, and it was amazing. I mean, I think the visual effects for this was amazing, dude. Yeah. Like, when they showed the plagues finally starting to occur, even before that, when there was a dream sequence that, well, I don't want to say it's a dream sequence, when Moses interacted with God for the first time in this movie, it was very simple, but it was like how it happened, it was like this, like that, because there's something that happens to Moses, and it's a really interesting practical effect how they do it, but then they go straight forward to this, and so it was really great camera work, great cinematography. But then, like I was talking about the CG, like, what did you think about like some of the visual effects, like what you saw in the movie, man?
Visual effects were really well done, especially when it came to like the plagues. You know what I'm saying? Some of the miraculous acts that were captured. They're done really well. Had a grand scope of it, so everything was big on a large scale. So that's one thing they capitalized on. It was really good too.
Yeah, they spared no expense for the budget for this one. And the fight sequences, they're actually really good. I mean, this is the director, Ridley Scott directed this, and he's directed everything from Alien, Prometheus, freaking Gladiator, Robin Hood, Kingdom of Heaven. He's dabbled in a lot, you know. And for him to tackle something like this in a certain section of the Bible, it was really interesting to see him do this. But I have to give the visual effects at least a 10 out of 10. Even the score. The score was not too out there. It wasn't too, you know, overdrawn. It was really classical sense. And then when you saw certain things that happened, like there was a plague that happened, which everybody knows, the firstborn dies. Or if you don't know, there's a plague that happens where the firstborn dies. All the different families. And when it happens, there's a certain sense of like, you hear nothing. You see the darkness go past, and it's such an awesome scene to see, but it just starts and you hear nothing. It's just so frightening. It's really well done. But yeah, definitely. What did you give the, I guess, the visual effects for this, as far as you give it a score?
Visual effects. I don't know. It's so well done. I'd have to give the visual effects a 10. I have to give the visual effects a 10 because they captured a lot of things, like such as like the plagues. Not only the subtle touches to the plagues, like when you actually see like animals die and stuff like that. Like I really thought they were like really.
Yeah, it looks like
dead animals and stuff like that.
They had the horses acting in this one, y'all. Like when you see a horse drop, like I was like, dang, that horse just died. It's really scary, you know. And even like the pestilence.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Like when they actually show how the Red Sea actually formed, instead of just automatically being Red Sea like the Prince of View like we've seen, nah, you see how there's a Red Sea, you know. But yeah, I give it the same thing. So the acting in this one. This is something me and Joe haven't really talked about. We've talked around the fact of the different roles and how everybody kind of played their role to a T. But in my opinion, Christian Bale did an amazing job with Moses. This is a totally different version of Moses than what's in the Bible. Now, exactly. I'll let Joe describe to y'all how Moses is supposed to be in the Bible, just on a simpler term, and then I'll share how Christian Bale's character was in this one, and then we'll go through each character like that. So,
right now, before I talk about, I want to say I like what they did with this Moses. You know what I'm saying? Though it's not, I don't feel like it's completely accurate. They do it for a reason, and I can see why they did that way.
And I'm gonna talk about that reason.
But the Moses in the Bible, you know, this guy, you know, is completely humble. By being humble, you know, he says he does have a speech impediment, you know. And his first interaction with God, and his God's like sending him on this mission, he is pleading with God on quite a few occasions and has different points of saying why he shouldn't go, based off his own inadequacies. And while he's talking to, you know, the guy that's portrayed in this movie, like, there's no.
Oh, I'll go into that.
There's no like. I'm gonna say this, like, most of the Bible, you know, he talks about his inadequacies, you know, and one of the reasons why God sends Aaron along with him is so he could be like Moses' mouthpiece, so to speak. But
in this one,
I'm gonna let you go.
In this one,
how is he in the movie?
In this one, we see him as a prince. We see him as a prince with swag. In the beginning, he's bold. He holds himself in high esteem. He is mentally looking and assessing everyone and everything around him, and he realizes that, like, he's kind of, he gives off the impression that he's an untouchable, in a sense, in the beginning. Now, something happens where he's put to a humble spot, you know, and, like, he's presented with his first interaction with God, and at the burning bush. And when that happens, what Christian Bale does so well, which this the bad thing, it's the controversial thing. He doesn't have a speech impediment. He's not the type that's like trying to plead with God. He's angry. He's upset. He like there's a point where you'll see how God is portrayed in this one. I don't want to spoil it. It's really interestingly done, but there is communication line between Christian Bale's character and God in this one. And when they start having their conversations, God has a sense of vengeance, with the way the words that he's articulating, certain things that Moses like, why you have to do it like this? Why does it have to be like this? Like, I'm not gonna do it. You know, it's almost like it's a sense of rebelliousness about him versus how in the context of the Bible he's supposed to be really humble and really meek, you know. Like, he didn't study God. The thing that I'll say about this that they did really well is that even though even though he would go and have his peace with God, you know, and say certain things, he did not ever strike God or say, well, I mean, forget you or XYZ. He had a fear. He really did have a fear of God. And there's a fear and a respect there. In the beginning of the movie, like that relationship grows in such a way that by the end of the movie, there's a point where God is asking him to do something. He's like, you know, I know you don't listen to me at all, but if you don't want to listen to this, then stop doing this action. And Moses, at this point now, he's gotten into that humbleistic mentality that we all know that Moses is supposed to be. So it's like, Ridley Scott portrayed the screenplay so well with Christian Bale's character, is that even when these trials are starting to happen, Christian Bale, you can see on his face, he's like, before, he went up to Ramses, their first interaction with Joel Edgerton. Like, Joel Edgerton's character of Ramses, he does a good job of being the bad guy. But it's like, he's a bad guy with purpose. Like, he feels as though, at a certain point, he feels like he needs Moses, but then he finds that he can't trust Moses. And then his whole goal is to protect his family. And when these trials start happening, he begins to have all this paranoia. And so when they finally meet, later on, Moses comes at him like a thug. And their interaction is just so interesting. It seems as though Moses' character really is hurt by what Ramses did to him. And then instead of, okay, I need to make sure you know my people need to be set free because God told me this, he was just threatening him. But by the end of it, you see through the trials that there's a real concern, there's a real compassion, there's a real love for everybody around him that Moses really has. He's willing to die for them. And that's why I understand the end of the movie now a lot better. Is there's a scene where you see the parting of the Red Sea, and there's something that Moses does and didn't make sense, but now talking about it, it really does make sense that he's willing to die just to be able to save somebody. And I can't say who by the end of it. But the other actors, like I said, Ramses, a lot of people are saying that his role in this one is really convoluted because it seemed like he was being maniacal and evil and then he wasn't, you know, and it's like his upbringings kind of identified him. He said that he grew up without being loved, in his opinion. And so he was just for self-preservation. But his relationship with his son is like, you are sleeping at peace because you're loved, whereas he can't sleep. And I identified with that. I really liked the way that he did that role with that. The other person that I didn't expect was Aaron Paul. Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad was in this one, and he's not even shown in the trailers, and he does an amazing job as Joshua. I didn't expect for him to kind of be there on the side like that, but by the end of it, I mean, I really identified with his character as well. And he was like the character that I think they portrayed him as can't be broken. Right? Is that, or you can't be broken. Yeah. And I could see that in his role. And even when Aaron comes up, and I think that Ben Middleton, he played the role, no, I don't think he did. Who was it that played the role of Aaron? I can't find it. But whoever the person that did play the role of Aaron, they did a really good job as well. I really like that. I think that Sigourney Weaver's character is kind of wasted in this. She didn't really do much. She played like the evil mom, but she really didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, she didn't have any real presence there. I think that the person that played the original Pharaoh, or Ramses' dad, in John Turturro, normally he's like the funny guy. Like, this is the guy that was the butler for Mr. Deeds. And he does an amazing job as being the father figure that when he starts to have certain issues or conversations with Moses, he does a good job in the portrayal with it. I thought that, like, I could really identify with this character. I was like, okay, I see that you love Moses more than you know, it's just really awesome how they did that. Everybody else is just all over the place, but I'll say this. The relationship that Moses has with his wife is really interesting in this one. And not just his wife, but his family, his son. And by the end of it, like, I could appreciate it so much more. And they don't go into the sex, they don't go into all this different unneeded crap they just go to the bare bones. It's like he sees the person that he knows he can identify with, and she says the same, but they're on different sides of it. And they tackle an issue that normally isn't tackled with relationships. Like, what if you marry somebody that doesn't believe the same thing that you do? And what if you have somebody that has ideals that you don't have the same ideals with, and those clash together? This is brought to the forefront of this whole entire thing. But when Moses goes through the process, what he goes through, it has an effect with this whole entire family that's really interesting, really potent, and I can see how they did that. Now, what about any characters you think of? I kind of went through a lot of them. I think we kind of went through all of them.
Yeah, we talked about all of them.
But the acting in it, I believe, in my opinion, that Christian Bale did an amazing job with Moses. The guy that plays Ramses did an amazing job. Aaron Paul did an amazing job. Everybody else, I think that they did their roles justice. I think even Ben Kingsley playing Nun did an amazing job, just his presence there. But they didn't do anything on an elevation level that would put this at an Oscar level, in my opinion. But they did a really good job. I mean, I really like their performances in this one. So I'd probably give it a 8.5 out of 10 as far as the acting is concerned. What about you?
I give it a 10. I give it a 10, man. Because like, I feel like everybody in the movie acted.
They played their role. You're right.
They played their role.
You're right.
And the way the story was told, it was everybody played their role to a T.
They had to do it a specific kind of way.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of characters in it too. It wasn't just, I mean, I saw the girl that played Zoe and Luther. I saw the guy that was in The Rundown that was playing the bagpipes. I mean, there's a lot of different actors in it.
That dude, man.
I was like, what the heck? But going into the thing that I guess is going to be really personal talking about is the story. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we've already gone through a lot. But I'll say that I really enjoyed this adaptation. It's just, it wasn't the word for word biblical representation that I've read, that I know. You know what I'm saying? And even like looking at the Prince of Egypt, that was taken out of context in a lot of different senses, you know. This could be comparable to a rated R version of the Prince of Egypt in a lot of different ways. But this is its own kind of movie. Like, whereas Noah, they went on such a tangent, went to all these different kind of psychological imbalances that didn't make sense. This kept to a identifiable story about a man that's brought up a certain kind of way, and it's not like they try to tell you, okay, well, he's crazy. You know, it wasn't like they're like, oh, there's something seriously wrong with him, that's why he's doing this. You know, like, you get to witness like why he's witnessing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, when Moses in the beginning, like I said, he is brought to the understanding that he is Israelite. He's brought to the understanding of he's actually Hebrew. And when he gets that notion, he's filled with anger, he's filled with confusion, and he doesn't want to listen to it or agree to it. And then you see a certain pattern where when he gets and identifies with God, like, he still doesn't want to accept, he still doesn't want to believe. And it's not just like that he doesn't want to believe in the situation, he doesn't believe that this is something that he should have to really worry about, or it's just really well done how they go through the cycle of Moses in this certain kind of way. Those are the things that we were talking about as far as the story that you want to talk about. Anything specific that kind of caught your eye? I know we were saying something before.
Well, we was talking about you know, the difference between Moses and as far as the Bible and in the movie, portrayed in the movie.
Yeah.
However, and why they did it that way. Which we also talked about, you know, well, one thing in the movie that like really was good was the fact that you can definitely see after like God was doing everything he was doing in the movie, like sending plays and, you know, things like that, you definitely can see how Moses changed because he's witnessing these things, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And if not at the beginning of the movie, by the end of the movie, you'll kind of see, all right, this is probably the Moses that's probably like, that's being mentioned in the Bible, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That character towards the end, matches more closely to the Moses in the Bible.
Yeah.
And you kind of see like the process he goes through to get to that point.
Yeah. We were also talking about the portrayal of God as the vengeful God, like the wrath side of God, which never has really been pushed a certain kind of way because it's really sensitive. A lot of people don't want to preach wrath and fire and brimstone, but the way that they do the art for God in this one, like just the portrayal of it, like everything, if you listen to what he's saying, there's a reason and a purpose behind it. You know what I'm saying? Like, even like when like some stuff I don't want to hear, I'm like, okay, I see what he's saying, you know? And he says it in such a subtle way that like it makes you fearful and want to back down. Like, okay, you know what? I get you. But do we have to see anymore? I don't want to see anymore. No, you're going to watch this, you know? And it's put to your face in such a way that it captivates you and it moves you into feeling like Moses doesn't have a choice, but he really does. Like everything that he's going through, he's choosing to want to follow a certain kind of path, even if he doesn't understand it. And even when you see like the stuff that's going on with the Israelites and how they're being abused and murdered and such sadistic things that are happening, it's a two-handed fold. You see both parties brought to their knees just from somebody not listening to God, basically, or listening to the warnings of God, you know?
Definitely.
And I think that has a big significance. There's a message there, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if Ridley Scott is a Christian or not, but I can identify how and which way he was trying to do that kind of message. Like, look, regardless if you think that you know right from wrong, like, when you don't do right, like, people around you are gonna be afflicted by that. When you sin, it's not just gonna touch you. You're not just gonna relish in it. Somebody else is gonna be affected by it that you're gonna eventually care about, you know? And if you don't go and try to do a certain thing a different kind of way, you know, you gotta at least listen. You gotta at least be able to, you know? And so, I mean, being a Christian, which I am, Joe's a Christian, this movie, I guess I'm trying to go from, I was a movie perspective, I really like this movie. I really liked it. I can identify that this is an amazing movie. I'd probably give the movie as a whole a 9 out of 10, which a lot of reviewers probably wouldn't even give it like a 7 because they feel like so many different convoluted things that are going on. But I can take myself aside and say as a movie reviewer, I really liked it. Now, my Christian side and thinking about it from a biblical perspective, they got a lot of different things wrong and different, you know, and I would like to have them to do this way and that way. But at the end of the day, the message did get delivered. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
And if I take somebody that is an atheist or is Muslim or somebody that's one of my friends that doesn't believe in God or even care, and they can go and identify like, man, I saw this man get broken down to nothing, but yet he was able to come back with his family and bring his people out of bondage, yet at the same time he had to suffer. This is the big thing that I say that I feel like that the whole story as a whole helped me out and blessed me from this movie is that looking at Moses getting exiled in this movie and the way that he got exiled and when he talked to his mother and he talked to his sister and they told him who he and what he is going out there and him getting to the family that he's eventually going to have with the son and the daughter, or the son and the wife. And the fact that for him, if he had not gone through that, if he had not gone and been exiled and suffered and dealt with all these different trials, he would not know the path to get to the point that get his people out. If he had never went through any of that, say hypothetically speaking, he got a revelation, okay, I got to understand it. I'm going to make a deal with Pharaoh. I need to get them out. You know, and all this. He would not have the faith nor the guidance to even get there. Right. So through his suffering, he was able to free himself and at the same time his people and his family just by listening to that. Whereas Ramses, through the fact of him saying, even his saying that I was not loved. So he had insecurities. So he had bits of evilness. And at the same time, he identified with Moses. He needed Moses. But at the same time, he felt as though he could not trust Moses because of his own inadequacies internally. And so instead of gaining everything, he lost everything. He lost his world, he lost his son, he lost his empire. And so you see that, you know, it's brought to a head. You know, the act of one selfless deed brings Moses to a certain point, and then what happens with Ramses, you know, but at the same time, everybody has their own choice, you know what I'm saying? And just like beliefs. But I really enjoyed it, and as a Christian, I actually really enjoyed it, and I'd bring somebody that wasn't saved or was saved, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. What about you?
I mean, kind of like, as a movie and being Christian, you know what I'm saying, I definitely enjoyed the movie. Like you said, there were parts that were kind of like, yo, this is not biblically correct. Yeah. But at the same time, I see exactly why they did it the way they did it. And then, like you said, at the end of the day, it was pretty much still the same message to me. One thing I learned from this movie, and one thing I think they did really well, was portray the seriousness of God. And what I mean by that is, like, you take the Hebrews, for example, you know, God was definitely, like, was for them, like, on their side, you know, setting them free. But at the same time, it was like, these people were not polished. Like, if you looked at them, they were like, you know, their hair was all raggedy, like...
They would look like a homeless person that you would see out on the street in New York right now. People. That's what they would look like.
You know what I'm saying? And they were not polished. And what I mean by that, even the path they traveled was not polished. Like, even when the plagues hit, they had to endure, like, they were a part of, you know what I'm saying, the culture in which the plagues hit, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They weren't exempt from everything. And that's what I mean. Even when, you know, like like when they're crossing the Red Sea, it was dangerous in crossing the Red Sea, and it was like, yo, y'all better get up out of there. Like, yeah. And it was like so serious. It's like you cannot, like, and really the whole movie was like, look, if God's telling you to do something, whether you're Hebrew, Egyptian, do it. Like, yeah. That was it, and like, don't hesitate in doing it, because it was like people's lives were at stake, and it was like these forces, like forces caused, like, God's initiating these forces, and it's like, man, do not hesitate in getting out the way. Yeah. You know, and one thing I really enjoyed about it, the movie, how they portrayed the ruggedness, you know, and especially like the Old Testament feel, like the grittiness and the heaviness, like just everyday life, like even, you know, even in, like, the first scene in the movie, you know, I'm probably like spoil this for some people, but it's not that important, contributes to the story. Like, one of the first scenes in the movie was like the Egyptians, they raided was it a Hittite camp? Yeah. And it was like, you know, like, I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, these people are just chilling, you know, doing their daily routine, and all of a sudden this army just comes through. It's like, yo, this is like everyday life back then, you know what I'm saying? This is crazy. So I really like how they capture that, like any moment, like the struggle between life and death is just always in their face. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing they really captured.
It was a good movie.
It was really a good movie.
It was a good movie.
It was really good movie.
We kind of went longer than we were supposed to. I apologize, y'all. Hopefully y'all enjoyed our review for this. Please leave your comments below if you've already seen the movie. Please don't leave too many spoilers if you can, at least until Friday. We're going to be looking at The Hobbit on Wednesday, so look forward to that. I really appreciate all the support from everybody. I'm going to make a video in a little bit. Surprise trailer reaction to something. But yeah. We really enjoyed this movie. Definitely go check out Exodus, Gods and Kings. SEO 0320, Joe Johnson 030, signing out, everybody. Later.